and welcome to another episode. In today's episode, I am going to be talking about Pseudo-class. But before we get started, if you're new to my channel, make sure to hit that subscribe button. If this video is useful, share it with someone else. And if you like this video, don't forget to give me a thumbs up. Also, if you want to support my channel, I am going to leave my PayPal link in the description below. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, so to get started with CSS Pseudo-class, I need you to visit the same website we've been using to code so far, which is w3schools.com. You're going to go into the CSS section and you will scroll all the way down to where it says CSS Pseudo-class. Now, as well, we are going to be using the same website we've been coding and the same code. What I'm going to do, just to get everything clean and make things easier for you, it's clean the entire HTML file. And I'm also going to delete the style that we applied in our previous episode. Once we do this, let's make sure to hit refresh and see that everything is working properly. And it is. Okay, so CSS pseudo-classes. What are they and how you can use them? I'm going to explain that in a moment. So first of all, let's read a little bit. So what are pseudo-classes? A pseudo-class is used to define a special state of an element. Now, this can be used with an element whenever you use the mouse to hover over it. You can style visited and unvisited links differently, and you can style an element when it gets focused, meaning that when we do something with it, like in this example here, if you click on the element, as you can see, you're getting a little bit more focus. If you click out of it, then it's not doing anything. Then also the same thing with the mouse. If you hover over this element, you see how it turns blue? Same thing. So remember that we already talked a bit about different type of states when styling your links. So that is what pseudo-classes are. It is the same thing that we were using when we were styling our links. Is the state link, visited, hover, and active. That is what a pseudo-class is. Now, the syntax for pseudo-classes is the following. You have to use a selector, as an example here, the letter A, right? Then you have to use columns. Then you will use the pseudo-class, which in this case here is link or visited, or it could be hover, or it could be active, okay? And then, of course, inside of the brackets here, you will see the property and you're going to see a value. The same thing we've been coding along so far. But that is what a pseudo-class is. Now, if you want to take a look at an example here, we can go ahead and actually play around with, let's use the visited. Well, actually, let's use the hover one. I'm going to show you how this works when you hover over an element. So for that, we're going to go into our code. I am going to add a paragraph here. And then inside of this paragraph, I am going to say, this is the link. Click on me. And then this click on me, I am going to set this up inside of an A tag. And I will give this an href of an unknown location. And of course, we're going to close here the A tag. Okay, now I'm going to hit here save, and then we're going to hit refresh. And here we go. Now I forgot to include the letter C here, so sorry about that. So make sure that you're typing everything correctly, and then let's hit refresh. There we go. So click on me. So this is the link, click on me. Then the next thing we're going to do is go back to our style, and then we're going to use the syntax for pseudo-classes. First thing that we're going to use is the A tag, right? We are going to use the A as a selector. Then, as you can see here in the example, if you want to change the color when we hover over an element, you will use the columns, and then you are going to use hover. Okay, so there we go, using that, and then we're going to use the state of hover. And then inside of this, we're going to say change the background color to, let's make it blue. Okay, and then we're going to hit save. And now going back to our code here, I'm going to hit refresh. So right now, when I hover over click on me, this is going to change to blue. You see how this is changing when I hover over it? So that's a very good example in order for you to understand what is a pseudo-class. So just remember, it is this thing right here, the columns, and then obviously the state that you use. Now, going back to W3 schools here, if you scroll a little bit down, you see that the pseudo classes and CSS classes can be combined. And you might be wondering, how do you do that? I'm going to show you the example right now, but first let's read a little bit. So pseudo classes can be combined with CSS classes. When you hover over the link in the example, then it'll change the color. So here, if you hit where it says try it yourself, if you can see, we're using still the A as a selector. Then you have a dot, which is calling the class of highlight. And then you have the pseudo class, which is hover, right? The columns and hover. So here we are using the highlight. So here we are using a class combined with the pseudo class of hover. Now here we've been taking a look at examples with only A tags. Well, you can do the same to hover over divisions. Okay, divisions, which are other elements, and you can use this with different type of classes. So what I'm going to do is that I am going to create a division, okay, and then I am going to make sure that you see how this is going to change, but adding a class first. So the first thing that we're going to do is add another paragraph, okay, and then we're going to say this is the link with a class. Okay, and this is the link with a class. Then we're going to give here, let's open here the A, then we're going to use an href, just leave it empty, and here we are going to say click on me too. Okay, and then in this special portion, we're going to give this a class. By the way, a class. Let's do this. Let's give a class of let's say example number 1. Let's just use en1. Okay, let's hit save. Now going back to our code here. Let's make sure it's working first. Let's hit refresh, and here we go. Okay, and right now if I hover over it, it's blue because it's applying the same style to all A elements if we hover over them. Now here we're going to say A. Okay, now here we're going to use the A element. Then we're going to call the class, which is example number 1. And then we are going to say, when we hover over this, I want the background color of this link to change to yellow. Let's make this one yellow. I'm going to hit save. Going back to our code, I'm going to hit now refresh. And if we hover over this one, it's blue. And if we hover over this one, as you can see now, is yellow, because we are saying to our code that now we want to the class of example number 1 a different type of color been applied. So I hope that makes sense so far. If you have questions, leave them in the comment section below. I'll make sure to reply as soon as I can. And now I'm going to show you another example with a division. Okay, here we have a div element, just so you can see that this is not only applied or applicable with A tags, right? You can also use divisions. So in order for you to use pseudo classes with divisions is very simple. Let's first add a division here. Okay, we're going to add a division. And then inside of this division, let's just add some general lorem ipsum type of content here. In fact, let's add more. Let's add more content. Okay, there we go. So now I'm going to hit save. Going back to our page, let's hit refresh. So here is the div. Okay, now in our example here, as you can see, if we hit try it yourself, you can change the color for this division when you hover over the content, right? When you hover over the division. So to use this, to do this, the only thing you have to do is call the division and then apply a certain type of background. So we're going to do it like that to make it simple for you. So let's go back to our CSS style. Let's use the division. And then let's say that when we hover over this division, then the background color for this element is going to change. And in this case, I'm going to change it to black, just so you can see it. And let's hit save. Now I'm going to hit refresh here. Okay, so when I hover over this, you see how everything it's black. And of course, you cannot even see the letters because right now the letters has a color of black, right? Now, if we change, we can also change the letters when we hover over it. We can just simply say color white, okay? And then we hit save. Now, when I hover over this, let's first hit refresh. When I hover over this now, the division is black with letters in white. Okay, so that's another thing you can do with pseudo classes. You can apply them to different type of elements. Now, going back to W3 schools here, there is another thing I want to show you. And this is the last thing that I'm going to show you in pseudo classes. Then it's going to be on you to research a little bit more and practice a little bit more on your own and learn how to use pseudo classes. Okay, so the last one I want to show you, because I think it's going to be very useful for you along the way when you're designing your websites, is the FirstChild pseudo class. Okay, so the FirstChild pseudo class, it matches a specified element that is the first child of another element. Now, we already talked about child and parents in our previous episode. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, I encourage you to go ahead and actually watch our previous video. And I will leave the link of that video in the description below as well. So if you use the first child, then this is going to help you to apply certain type of styles to the first child of an element. And I am going to show you the example here. If you hit here where it says try it yourself, okay, we are going to create 2 paragraphs, and let's do that here. Okay, let's create, after the division, 2 paragraphs. And to each paragraph, we are going to also add 2 I tags. And then the I tag, remember, that is used just to turn this into italic. Okay, so I am going to say this is the paragraph. Let's say this is the paragraph 1. And then we're going to add the I tag. And inside of the I tag here, they just add some content and then some content 1, and then we're going to add a second I tag. Okay, so let's do that here. Another I tag and then some content 2. And you know what? I'm going to put child 1 because this is the first child, and then this is the second child 2 in the inside of this paragraph. Now I'm going to create another paragraph. Okay, and same thing with child 1 and child 2. This is paragraph 2. Okay, so now I'm going to hit save, going back to our code. Let's hit here refresh, and there you go. So we have, this is paragraph, and then I type in here child 1 and then child 2. Same thing, this is second paragraph, child 1, child 2. So to show you how the first child works, is very simple. Here you're going to use a combinator, and then you're going to use also a pseudo class. So first thing we're going to do in our code is use the p tag, and then we're going to give a space, which is going to be the combinator for us to use the I tag, and then we're going to say hover as a pseudo class to apply this to the first child of each P element. Okay, and the first child in this case will be an I, okay, because we are calling I's only. So to the first child, we want to color, let's give a background color of pink. And you know what? In fact, it's not hover. I'm sorry, we're talking about first child, not hover. So let's use first child. Let me change that up. Sorry about that. So let's change that. There we go. So we're going to apply a background color of pink. So now let's hit save. Going back to our code, we are going to hit refresh, and we should change, and we should see only the first child changing inside of each paragraph, right? So let's hit refresh, and boom, you see? So the first child, as you can see, is doing exactly what I was explaining. It's only applying certain type of style to the first child of a specific element. In this case, we're using P, and then we are using as well the I tag inside of P tags. So I hope this has been so far a good example for you in order for you to understand how the FirstChild Pseudo-class works. If you have questions, if you feel confused, or there's something that you need clarification on, feel free to leave those in the comment section below. I will read them and I will make sure that I give you an answer as soon as I can. Okay, so that was it for today. Another thing I recommend you to do is simply visit W3 Schools. You can scroll a little bit down here and you can see other pseudo classes like lang, and you can even see more, like empty, enable, first of type, etc. The bottom line here is that you have to go into this website to read a little bit more and practice on your own, so that way you can become a master in CSS. There's no other way to learn rather than practicing what you're learning, okay? So that was it for this video, everyone. I hope you've liked it. If you did, make sure to give me a thumbs up. That really helps my channel and I appreciate it. Also, if you're new to my channel, make sure to hit that subscribe button. That way you can get notified every time that I upload a video. And remember that you can always ask Lixi. Bye everyone, and see you again in the next episode.